Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Reborn as a Goku clone. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Quick update. What If Dragon Deck user in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal and What If Reborn as a Goku clone will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What If Gacha System in Modern Family World? What If Fusion Deck user in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX? What If Transmigrated in One Piece and becoming a Marine? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top 2 picks and start working on those 2 series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 25. As soon as that monster disappeared through the portal, Tawa wasted no time in closing it shut tight behind him. And then she collapsed on her backside. What an insane beast, she whispered to herself, wrapping her arms around her midsection, even as her whole body trembled with terror. Her mind flashed back to just a few minutes ago. Remember the way he grinned savagely as his eyeballs exploded in their sockets, showering the air in his gore, how blood vessels erupted and very skin tore and cracked. And yet, in just mere moments, he was fully healed again and seemed to relish in it. Tawa gagged, and couldn't stop herself as she bent over and retched, emptying the contents of her stomach beside her comatose creation. In all the time she had spent meddling with time and manipulating the timeline to her and her kin's benefit, never once had any of the main players displayed such raw, visceral brutality, not even the likes of Vegeta. I must never meet that monster again, the demoness told herself as she stared down into the puddle of her own vomit. Before she could get her thoughts in order or anything else, a familiar whirring sound resounded through the air in front of her, and she looked up just in time to see space ripple and part before her eyes, and a very familiar purple-skinned, bespectacled youth stepped out. My, you've gotten yourself into a right silly state now, haven't you, mother? Fu mused, a light, almost mocking smile on his face. You were watching? She glared up at him through bleary eyes. Why did you not step in? You are far stronger than your father. You could have made this all a non-issue. He's actually more of a donor than a father. Fu cast a glance at his said father, beaten, unconscious and pitiful looking, his torn-out stomach slowly healing. Besides, I wouldn't do that. I'm not here to hold your hand, mother dearest. I've got my own plans. It's not my fault you ran afoul of my favorite in your slapdash way of doing things. Such an arrogant boy, thinking himself above his own mother. He was only as powerful as he was now because of all the lengths she went to for him. Wait. Your favorite, she gaped, wide-eyed at her son. Oh yes, why do you think Kakarot is around in the first place? As I'm sure you witnessed, the main timelines have nobody like him. Truly I outdid myself. Fu laughed happily and actually reached up to pat himself on the back. Plus, he's still kind of mad at me for forcing him into some fun situations. I suppose I should apologize to you for that at least? He was definitely only so brutal with you both because of me. Tawa grimaced. Things were starting to make sense. They had to be constantly on the move after the failure of Demigra. The Time Patrol hunted her and Mira wherever they went. No matter what timeline, they would not cease their pursuit. She'd only come across this timeline by accident, and when she saw how abundant the time break energy already was, she thought she found an opportunity, especially when she traced the distortions in the timeline to this Kakarot. Shame on her, she should have known better. And would you have done nothing if he went through with his threats there at the end? She asked her son pointedly. If he really wanted to, there was nothing she could have done to stop him from taking her as he claimed he would if she bothered him again. What, him taking you as his sex slave? Fu snorted. Oh, you shouldn't worry about that. He's actually quite devoted to his current partner, the Bulma briefs of his time. Without her say-so and permission, he wouldn't actually seriously touch another woman. Oh, so that was just bluster in the end? Though, admittedly, the brat hadn't had any compunctions on molesting her rear end. Well, at the ver. Actually, now that I think about it, he could have probably just beaten you down and dragged you back home with him to meet his Bulma, and she definitely would have given the okay, Fu casually mused, reigniting the horror within her. Yeah, if you don't want to end up chained at his bed, dressed up in all manner of raunchy costumes and performing for his pleasure, you should probably stay away from him. You don't seem to care that he made threats to turn your own mother into his sex slave. Tawa swallowed heavily. Did he really care for her so little? Where had she gone wrong? Well, to be fair, you weren't much of a mother. There isn't exactly any familial love between us. After all, you did dump raising me on Uncle de Bureau, remember? Fu shrugged, before blinking. Actually, Kakarot is a far more impressive specimen than Mira. Perhaps you should just take him up on that threat of his? I'm quite interested in seeing a version of myself born from the joining of you and Kakarot. He wouldn't have as much variety as me, of course, but in raw talent and fighting ability, I might just be vastly surpassed. Tawa stared at her son in absolute horror as he excitedly mumbled to himself, thinking on how things would go if she, his own loving mother, were to be bred and impregnated by that monstrous scion, used as nothing more than as a tool for his pleasure in broodmare. She shuddered in terror. I will have to refuse. I have things I must accomplish after all, she hesitantly pointed out. Well, whatever, your loss, Fu shrugged, before suddenly narrowing his eyes at her and losing all of his previous genial demeanor. Though, I'd appreciate it if you kept your grubby mitts off of this timeline. This is my playground. The time-breaker energy being generated here is mine. I can't just have imbeciles like you running amok, mother, especially when you'll agitate Kakarot. I've not even finished figuring out how he got his hands on King Yema's fruit or fixed that time ring I gave him. I'm totally sure it has something to do with that time freeze technique he got his hands on, though. Humph, so even you can't keep him fully under control. Tawa filed that away in the back of her mind. That may come in handy in the future. That savage scion, Kakarot, he seemed to be at odds with her son. Well, if she ever was forced to interact with him again, she could trade some information to help him against her son. I'll keep that in mind. Tawa inclined her head to her son politely, taking a deep breath to steady herself and standing up. With a thought, Myra's comatose form floated into the air beside her and a wave of her staff formed a new portal. But, I am a busy woman, so I think I'll be going now. It was nice seeing you, my son. Sure, bye-bye, mother. Fu casually waved her goodbye. As soon as she was through the portal, and away from the prying eyes of her son, she sighed in relief. Beating a hasty retreat was the best idea in that situation. If she stuck around any longer, he might just overpower her and deliver her bound and gagged to that scion to do as he pleased with her. Well, crude and terrifying as he is, being lusted for once is a nice bit of change of pace, the stray thought pierced her mind before she shook it. Mira had never shown an ounce of sexual desire for her after all. Underscore 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 underscore. Hello? I came slowly back to consciousness with a groan, my head splitting. And for a moment, I wondered what the hell I'd done this time. Excuse me? Ah, wait, that was right. After getting out of that damn crack in time and dealing with that stupid, sexy demon bitch, I'd had to change my clothes, and burn the old ones. Thank fuck for the most powerful ability I had, the legendary clothes beam. The old ones were absolutely rancid, being coated and absolutely soaked through with my gore. Once that was done and I made sure I didn't stink like the voided bowels of a recently dead corpse, I got back to business. Really, it wasn't as simple as I made it sound. With pure key sensing, it would have been impossible. The only reason I could even find the one I wanted was because of the fact I now had a sliver of God key residing within me, and then I spread my key sense to the farthest reaches of the universe with the far sight technique, something usually only a special privilege given to gods, and then enhanced even further with the Yardrat's spirit control. Then when I locked onto my target, I wasted no more time, not letting anybody else get the chance to get the jump on me before I could fix my issues, and used instant transmission. Only, it felt like I'd slammed into an unmovable, absurdly sturdy wall and pain had assaulted my mind, and I blacked out. Yoo-hoo-hoo. Ugh, honestly, who even was that? The voice was absurdly pleasant, soft and feminine, yet at the same time, a pleasant male timbre echoed within. It was an incredibly soothing voice, truth be told. I opened my eyes and found myself staring up at a tall, slender male dressed in purple robes, a beautiful, almost feminine face with glistening light blue skin and immaculate ivory hair. Oh, finally awake are we? Whis smiled pleasantly down at me. You made quite the ruckus appearing here the way you did, caught me by surprise even. You're quite lucky you didn't wake up my lord, he would have been quite testy. Sorry, Lord Whis, I pushed myself to my feet with a wince and bowed my head. I didn't mean to cause you any trouble, there wasn't really any point in my usual gung-ho attitude here, it would be mere bluster in front of one as powerful as Whis. No need to be so polite, you may call me Whis, the angel hummed, eyeing me with interest, and it is no bother, frankly, I'm actually quite impressed you actually pierced through the barrier hiding this planet, though it seems not without issue, here let me deal with that. He lifted the staff he was holding in his hand and gently touched it to my forehead. A soft warmth spread throughout my body, and the pain disappeared entirely. Now, who might you be, I wonder, he asked before I could thank him, a lesser god from the looks of it, though a recent one from the feel I'm getting. But you are quite powerful, aren't you? His eyes flickered to my hand, specifically the time ring on one of my fingers, and you have access to such interesting toys, he chuckled lightly. Ha! You know, I honestly kind of expecting him to have sensed my power before now. I haven't exactly been the most careful at keeping it concealed after all. Can't you see the entire universe in your staff? I asked on instinct. Indeed, but that's so boring, and I've got so little ways of keeping myself occupied when my lord sleeps for extended periods of time like he is now, Whis shrugged, shaking his head in dismay. I think it'll be more interesting to learn as I go for now instead of just instantly getting everything on the situation, don't you think so? I mean, when he put it like that, I actually feel a bit sorry for him. Such mind-numbing boredom, I never wanted to experience it. Hell, that was the reason why I didn't just go spend all my time in the hyperbolic time chamber and shit. As tedious as everything I'm going through right now is, it at the very least isn't boring. Still, I am surprised to find a scion has survived the destruction of planet Vegeta and even made their way here, Whis pointed out, and especially one so powerful. It has been a long time since I've seen a mortal anywhere near this powerful, especially a scion. My name is Kakarot, I introduced myself, and few of us survived the destruction of planet Vegeta, and I've come into some grand opportunities. I replied. I'd assume so, though Lord Beerus really should learn to do his job properly instead of leaving it to flunkies like Frisia, Whis chuckled. Now, Kakarot, what brings you all the way out here? Perhaps to challenge my Lord Beerus for his title as God of Destruction? That could be fun, though I'm afraid as powerful as you are, you're no match for a true god. No, I have no interest in bother Lord Beerus, I shook my head. Actually, the reason I came all the way here is because I wanted to ask for your help, Whis. Ho! Whis hummed in interest, one delicate eyebrow raising, and what can I, a mere lowly attendant, do for you? I resisted the urge to snort, him, lowly? He's the strongest existence in the entirety of Universe 7, even Beerus couldn't take him on in a fight. Have you heard of the Super Saiyan? I asked. That takes me back, isn't that the legend of some incredibly unstoppable Saiyan from back in the day? Whis tapped his chin. King Vegeta was oh so happy to brag on and on about the legend when we visited. The way he harped on about it is honestly really the biggest reason why your home planet was destroyed in the first place. His arrogance in this legend ended up annoying Lord Beerus. That totally sounded like Vegeta's dad, that RuneScape wizard boot-wearing retard. Well, I am a Super Saiyan. I revealed. Oh? Good for you. Whis replied simply. Honestly, that reply would have been irritating as fuck and incredibly condescending, if not for the person who spoke it. He didn't need to take a god of destruction seriously, never mind a Super Saiyan. Truthfully, any scion with sufficient strength and drive can become one. It's a transformation that can be unlocked, I continued on. The thing is, there's two different types of Super Saiyan. One is what I was before and I had already more or less mastered it. The other is known as the legendary Super Saiyan, and it is more of a mutation than anything else. They are stronger than normal Super Saiyans, but it comes with the fact that they tend to have control issues and rage out of control. I see, Whis nodded in understanding. What you are saying is that you have become one of these legendary Super Saiyans, and now you are afraid you cannot control yourself when transformed. As expected, he gleaned what I was getting at instantly. Pretty much, I'm sure I can learn to control it if I do go into a rage, given enough time, I explained. I had learned to control the Oozera state after all, and Broly wasn't always a raging berserker even transformed, and even Kale showed it was possible. The problem is, there's nobody strong enough to keep me contained while I rage about, and I could end up destroying entire galaxies. So you came to me, Whis chuckled, should I be flattered you have such confidence in my strength and ability to do so? I just stared at him. I suppose if you have a time ring, you will know more than your usual mortal, and that is definitely a story I'd like to hear, Whis chuckled. He stared at me for a moment, before touching the butt of his staff into the ground, and suddenly a massive barrier appeared around us in an instant. Very well, you've piqued my curiosity about these so-called Super Saiyan transformations, Kakarot. Feel free to go wild, I'll make sure you don't run too out of control should it be needed, and within this barrier, Lord Beerus will be unable to sense you and get woken up. That was all I needed to hear. There was no point in pussyfooting around here, and now that he'd given me this chance, I slipped into a lower, steady stance and took a deep breath, and then I reached deep within myself, to that blinding, golden radiance. Deep within it, I could see two other energies, one, the tiny sliver of God Ki, the other, a raging, crackling green spark. I pulled upon that golden radiance, subsumed it with my Ki, and as I did, it happened. The green spark exploded outwards, spreading throughout the golden Super Saiyan Ki, crackling and shocking through my Ki, my body and my very soul. A massive aura exploded out of me and I felt my power rise explosively, far more than normal, my vision tinted golden lime green. And even as I assumed the form, I felt my power continue to steadily incline. Yet I felt no rage. I felt no desire to thrash around, destroy, murder and kill, well, no more than usual at least. I felt, as I always did as a Super Saiyan. I mastered the raw emotions of my Super Saiyan forms in the past 6 months, but from my experience, they don't even come close to the berserker rages of the legendary Super Saiyan. I thought to myself, confused. So this is the Super Saiyan transformation King Vegeta was harping on about? Whis humming in interest broke me from my thoughts, and I looked up to see him casually walking around me, observing the raging aura of gold and lime green around my body. I can see why a weakling like him would put such a form on such a large pedestal, and in the hands of one like you, it makes for a formidable warrior. I clenched and unclenched my fist, getting a feel for my new transformed state's powerful. It doesn't end here, I told him. Oh? Whis paused, looking at me curiously. These transformations can reach higher, more powerful stages, I explained to him. I know of at least 4 in this branch more or less, but I can only reach the 3rd right now. The 4th is even more dangerous than what I thought this would be. Is that so? Whis mused. Well then, since you're here, you may as well take this transformation of yourself to the limit you can reach. I'm quite curious to see just how strong you can get right now. I grinned. Alright, I'll do my best to give you a good show then. I reached deep within myself, and pulled more upon that green sparking, golden radiance within me, and a split moment later, I ascended to Super Saiyan 2, and then I pulled even harder, my infinite Ki generator getting a real workout as my aura grew, and grew to the point where Whis was completely blocked out from my vision, the only thing I could hear, being my own screaming voice, and the only thing I could see, bright gold and lime yellow. I still hadn't reached a point of mastery over Super Saiyan 3 where I could enter it instantly, and it took me a good 30 or so seconds to generate the needed power to force the transformation. But finally, it clicked into place, and still my mind felt undisturbed beyond the sheer amazement I felt in how fucking awesome I am. And here I stood, the legendary Super Saiyan 3, I could feel my lack of eyebrows now, and there was one greenish gold bang hanging down over my forehead, and in my peripheral, I could make out the way my hair had lengthened and become rigid and spiky, the same gleaming green gold as the bang hanging over my forehead. Honestly, right now, I felt like I could erase half a galaxy by swinging my arm too hard. How insane. And even still, my power continued to steadily climb. That was usually a problem for Broly. His body could only contain so much Ki after all. But I don't have that problem, any extra. I can just shift to power up the death bomb if needed, and even if I did let my body get damaged by becoming too bloated with power, I'd just heal the damage anyway and become even stronger. Whis whistled. So this is 3rd stage of this legendary Super Saiyan form then, he inquired. Yeah, I guess you'd call it legendary Super Saiyan 3, a bit of a mouthful though. I grinned at him. It is indeed that, Kakarot, but I suppose it does fit. A grand name for such a grand transformation. This is definitely not something you'd expect from a mere mortal and mere lower-class enshrined planetary god, the angel chuckled, and you're so young too. In the future, you may actually be a challenge for Lord Beerus. Perhaps I'll be your attendant in the future. I don't know about that, being the god of destruction sounds like a lousy gig to be honest. I almost shuddered at the thought. Plus, my life would be tied to fucking Shin and I'd die if he ever got boomed out of existence, which is a distinct possibility considering how ignorant and naive he is in regards to his own job. I mean, not really his fault and all, but I still don't want my life tied to that guy. It depends on the perspective I suppose, Wish shrugged. So, is that as high as you can go then? Why no actually, I shook my head as I remembered the form I'd taken just at most an hour ago. While I can't reach Super Saiyan 4 right now, I have other ways to increase my strength. Oh? Whis' interest was piqued once again. You know, I'm curious to see just how high I can reach myself now. With just a thought, my magic melded with my ki and tripled my power, and then, I compressed the ki within my body even further, causing my musculature to bulge and become larger, even as I let the bio-armor form over my chest, head, wrists, and the tip of my tail. Ho ho! Isn't that the ability from Frisia's race? Whis' eyes practically gleamed with questions. Curiosity getting the better of me, I waved my arm and conjured a mirror in front of me to get a look at myself, and I couldn't help but grin. With the cooler-esque armor, my raging legendary Super Saiyan aura, glowing green eyes shining from the depths of my helmet and my long-ass hair jutting out of the back of it, I look like a total fucking badass. Underscore 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 underscore. Kakarot, Legendary Super Saiyan, Battle Power, 184,823,728,500. Kakarot, Legendary Super Saiyan 3, Battle Power, 3,326,827,113,000. Kakarot, Legendary Mystic Super Saiyan 3/Ultra Bioform, Battle Power, 29,941,444,000,000. Chapter 26. I have to admit, very impressive, Whis nodded as he examined my utmost powerful form, using your magic to enhance your ki, and even using the racial ability of the Frostians as a way to compress and enhance that muscular form. I'm sure there's an interesting story behind how you gained such an ability. The muscular form is called the Ultra form. My teacher back on Earth taught me it, I replied, and as for the bio-armor, I ate the tail of Frisia's father in another timeline. Whis blinked. Oh, that's right, they do contain a lot of their potent life force and abilities in their tails, do they not? He hummed. Why, if I'm not wrong, didn't Frieza's father wipe out the vast majority of his race and eat their tails himself to gain his strength? I remember that. I'm sure Lord Beerus thought it was an amusing show. So that's how that worked. Eesh, and that fucking freak literally ate his own entire race. Add genocidal cannibalism to the list of reasons why King Cold was a piece of shit that deserved rot in hell. I mean, maybe I'm not one to talk, seeing as I literally ripped out Myra's intestines, slapped him around with them and then ate them to establish my dominance, but still, while I'm sure there's a reason you have a time ring and can apparently so freely use it, especially considering only Kais should be able to use them, I do hope you aren't making a mess of things. Whis raised an eyebrow at me pointedly. It is after all, against the established laws of the universe to meddle with time. Not through any choice of my own, I got this forced on me actually, I quickly assured him, waving my hands. The only reason I still have it right now is because I'm working for the Supreme Kai of Time to help her deal with this real pain in the ass who's messing with the timelines to get time break energy. Oh? You've been recruited by Kranoa? Whis tilted his head slightly before laughing lightly. Ho-oh, you do get around, don't you? Sadly. I sighed. Thankfully, he couldn't see me grimace thanks to my helmet and mouthguard. Like, I wasn't going to complain about meeting Kranoa, she's awesome and cute as fuck. But goddamn is my life complicated. Anyhow, Whis continued, you said this is the strongest form you can reach right now, beyond a fourth form you have not attempted yet? Pretty much, yeah, I nodded. The next step is absorbing blood waves and becoming an Oozaru and then combining it with the Super Saiyan forms. In that form, my power will be multiplied 10 times over. The problem is, the Oozura form is already hard to control, and with the added Super Saiyan instincts, well, I'll definitely go berserker until I can regain control, and once that happens, I'll be able to compress all that power and return to normal size and reach the pinnacle of Saiyan transformations, Super Saiyan 4. I see, who knew Saiyans had such a variety of ingrained transformations within them? Wish shook his head, amused. I assume, one of the reasons you sought me out, is because you believe I can keep you contained while you muddle your way through to controlling that form? That about sums it up, yes. I nodded. It's well thought out of you, and speaks well of your intentions that you haven't allowed such a tangible and seemingly easy route to power to sway you into rushing, was hummed, but, if I may, I think you should put off going for this Super Saiyan 4 right now. How come? I questioned, a single eyebrowless ridge rising under my helmet. Like, I'm actually not in too much of a rush to get it, not with how powerful I am right now. There's literally nothing in this universe currently that can threaten me beyond Whis and Beerus now, and Beerus will be sleeping for over another decade at least, and well, I seem to be getting along pretty well with Whis. While the increase in power you would get is very impressive to hear about, I think you should work on this legendary Super Saiyan 3 form of yours more first. The angel shrugged. While the first and second states seem to be easy for you to use, this one, not so much. Frankly, if it weren't for the fact your ki seems to refill as soon as you use it, you'd only be able to maintain this form of yours for 5 minutes at best. I grimaced. He's not wrong. I'm far from mastering Super Saiyan 3. Goku, in GT for instance, could enter the form instantly, even without his tail, without spending any excess ki in the transformations. Power is nice, but it isn't the answer to all things, I'm afraid. Whis pointed out. Relying on pure power will just make you weaker in the long run, so my advice is to take your time and master this form of yours first, and once you do, then attempt this Super Saiyan 4 state, and well, it's not like I'm going anywhere now, is it? Sound advice. And it isn't like even GT Goku had mastered Super Saiyan 3 either, not like Cumber had, or Goku Black. You're much more experienced and intelligent on these matters than me, so I'll take your advice. I nodded. Whis blinked. Is this what it's like to actually have my abilities as a teacher respected? He mused, tapping his chin. It's been so long since Lord Beerus was like that, I almost forgot. Well, I mean, Beerus is a testy cat if there ever was one. Man, being an angel attendant seemed like a lousy job as well. Sighing, I shed my bio armor and allowed my body to slim down a bit, but didn't release my legendary Super Saiyan 3 state. Well, as thanks for your help, how about I treat you to some food? I mused. Well, I definitely won't refuse such a lovely offer. Whis grinned widely. I hope you've got something tasty on hand. It might surprise you, but I'm quite the connoisseur. You don't need to worry about that. While I'm a guardian of my own planet now, that was mostly so I could become a god. I grinned. Earth, my real home planet, has the tastiest food in this entire universe. Is that so? Whis' eyes positively gleamed. It was a good thing I'd long prepared in advance for this, and the ultimate NET system had all the data needed from downloading information from Earth to create practically any dish. Man, if the ultimate NET system was a woman, I'd totally waifu it. That was how much I was beginning to love it. Wait, now there's a thought. My eyes widened. Underscore 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 underscore. Oh my goodness. Whis practically squealed in joy less than a half an hour later, wiggling back and forth in his seat. Before him sat a warm, steaming bowl of perfectly made spaghetti bolognese, such smooth sauce and tender meat, and what an interesting texture this pasta you called it? Has. We were currently sitting at a table I had conjured, still within the barrier so my uncontrolled power didn't bother Beerus from his sleep, though I think he'd probably left me off because of the food. Beside us, at the side of the table, a large, bulky white robot sat awaiting orders. One of the mass-produced robot terminals of the ultimate NET system. I remembered idly one of these things slapping around Krillin and wondered where they'd rank power-wise. My scouter beeped on and a number was reflected back at me as soon as I did, 3 million. So basically, these mass-produced worker bots were all as strong as base Goku when he fought Frieza. Neat. I hadn't went into it much, mostly because I only really got the big Geet star within like the last day now. God, how did it feel so much longer than that? Well, already it was using the natural resources being produced by my planet thanks to my energy, and was in the process of building a giant, beautiful futuristic city, my own castle, was pretty much already finished, and get this. It had already integrated all of the consoles and game data on Earth for me. God, did it work fast. Sure, the place was pretty much full on metallic right now, beyond the ingredients and shit I picked up for this occasion, but I can just conjure shit like furniture, or let Bulma go ham and decorate herself. Either way, my new buddy nestled within my brain, was constantly mentally linked to me, and anything I relayed to it on wanting it to get on top of, it got right down to it. Heck, it could even show me from its own point of view, giving me a full view of anywhere where it had built upon in my world so I could get a look at how things were going. That's actually just a common dish, nothing really special, and my robots only really started cooking today. I helpfully informed up, picking up a row of doner kebab, doused in chili sauce and shoveling it into my mouth. Really? Whis practically vibrated at my words. How would you like to become my new apprentice? All you have to do is supply me this lovely earth food. A tempting offer, I chuckled, but if it's just about the food, you can feel free to visit me whenever you want it won't really be much effort on my part to feed you whenever you want. Oh my, is this a proposal? I don't think I've ever heard such a beautiful phrase before. Whis cupped his cheek. Let's just say a token of friendship, I snorted, though, that does bring up something I'm curious about. Oh? Whis arched a brow at me. Can your angel race reproduce with other races? I asked. Whis was a very, very pretty man, and that reflected in his sisters, they were insanely gorgeous. Whis blinked, pausing in the motion of raising a meatball to his mouth. I'm not actually sure. We do have reproductive organs, though none of my family to my knowledge have ever engaged in intercourse with a mortal. Granted, we spend long years apart. I'd probably need to ask father. He tapped his chin, though, if any race were compatible, it would probably be your own scion race. The unique adaptability of your race's genes make your race practically able to breed with any other race. Why do you ask? He gave me a curious look. I've seen a few of your sisters, and they're very attractive. I didn't bother beating around the bush. Do you think any of them would be interested? Whis blinked slowly. Kakarot, you really are perhaps the oddest mortal I've ever come across, and I've been around for a long time. He shook his head, lips twitching in amusement. I'll take that as a compliment. I shrugged, because I'm pretty amazing, I think. You should, Whis nodded. Sadly, though, I'm afraid pursuing a relationship with any of my sisters is a bit impossible. Our duty is to our gods of destruction, sadly. So unless you want to go to another universe and challenge their gods of destruction for their titles, I'm afraid having any of my sisters as partners is out of reach. Yeah, I suppose that would make things a little difficult. And I really don't want to be some standard god of destruction. The only way I'd accept that in any scope is if the Supreme Kai linked to me was some absurdly powerful beast and preferably female. What about Vados? I still felt the need to point out, though, doesn't she have a lot of free time like you, since Lord Kompot is even lazier than Lord Beerus? Well, you're not wrong, Whis nodded, though. You'd be better asking her about this sort of thing. Perhaps I should invite her over? It has been quite some time since we last spoke after all. I'm all for it. I couldn't quite smother my grin. Besides, from what I know of her, she likes nice food just like you. It would be a shame to leave her out. I do get along with Vados best out of siblings, that is true. Whis nodded in agreement, and picked up his staff. As he did, I ran a hand through my long-ass lime-green tinted golden hair, and blinked. I'd forgotten I was even in this state there for a bit. But now that I did, I noticed something. The way my ki has continuously increased, it has not just been my normal ki. The tiny, tiny dust fragment-sized piece of God ki within him had grown ever so slightly, and I could feel that raging green spark within me, enveloping it, pushing it on to greater heights, if at an absurdly slow rate. Well now, isn't this a nice surprise? I mused. This was my very own natural God ki. I couldn't do much with it right now, but when I had enough, I should be able to use it in tandem with my normal ki to enhance it. The same way Zamasu did, as Goku Black. Usually, Goku and Vegeta had to massively compress their mortal ki to increase its strength and purity until it reached the same level as God ki to initiate their god forms, from what I remember. But, in time, I won't need to do that. My god power won't be fakes like theirs, but actual true god ki. Really, the only difference in my god ki and the likes of Zamasu was scale. And would you look at that? The legendary Super Saiyan forms, even passively, if slowly, enhanced my God Ki. This will speed up my plans immensely. Hello, sister. Whis' joyful voice broke me from my thoughts, and I cut off the mental connection from my Ki to see him staring into the orb atop his staff. Once an ebony black, now it was lit up like a spherical television screen, and reflected in it was a similar blue-skinned, white-haired angel, just like Whis. Hello, dear brother, it's been quite some time since I heard from you. Vados replied, her face impassive, the only indication of her surprise at the call being one fine white eyebrow raised slightly above the other. A few decades, I believe, not since Lord Beerus was last awake and got into a scuffle with Lord Kampa, Whis mused. How are you? I am fine, Vados nodded lightly, disappointed at most in Lord Kampa's inability to lose weight, despite the fact he was active not long ago, but such is my duty. Such rebellious kiddies these destroyers are, Whis giggled, but that is the reason why I'm contacting you. I did wonder why. Vados nodded again. Are you busy at all right now? Whis asked, do you perhaps time to pop over for a visit? Lord Kampa is asleep right now, so not particularly, Vados mused. I can visit for a short period, though the question is why? Well, I've recently had a visit from quite a fascinating mortal, and he's interested in meeting you and discussing something with you. Whis shrugged lightly. I'm afraid I can't help him on this matter, but you can, and he's even prepared quite the sumptuous feast, positively to die for if my experiences so far are anything to go by. I cringed. He'd literally only eaten half a common bowl of spaghetti bolognese. How bad was the food throughout the universe for such a common dish to get such high praise from an angel of all things? Well, this mortal seems to know how to grab attention then. Vados lifted a hand to her mouth and gave an airy, polite giggle, but fascinating in what way? Oh, he's a scion. I believe you have them in your universe as well? Though, your own are a lot different from ours if I remember correctly, Whis replied, not even looking at me as he began discussing me. He's still but an adolescent, barely a decade and a half by my estimates, but already his power is something to take note of. Give him a few years and by my estimates he may even surpass Lord Kampa if he keeps on gaining strength at the rate he is now. Ho! That is impressive, especially for one so young. I don't think I've ever heard of one that young having potential like that among the mortals before, especially among the Scions. While strong as a race, they gave much of their potential through evolution to become stronger earlier in life. Vados hummed, very well, you've piqued my interest, dear brother. I shall make my way over now. Goodbye for now. With that last statement, the video feed of her blinked out and the spherical orb returned to a pitch-black ebony. Well, there you go, she's on her way. Whis turned and smiled brightly at me, casually laying his staff against the table and picking up his fork again. It should take her around 30 Earth minutes to arrive here, I should say. Well, that was easy. But, a question did present itself. Doesn't it bother you that I basically just asked what my chances were on breeding one of your sisters? I couldn't help but ask. In response, Whis outright laughed. Breed, eh? Such a coarse word, very primal of you. I can see the scion in you from that alone, he pointed out in amusement, before shrugging lightly. But, should I be offended? It is just a word, and a natural process of all mortal beings. Should I be angry at the sun for shining next? Besides, it is not like you could force the issue. The most you can do is try to persuade her, and I'm fascinated at the possible prospects should you succeed. He stroked his chin and hummed, none of my siblings, nor myself have ever had children like our father. It would be quite the occasion if possible. He then smiled deviously at me, and you may be one of the few mortals that could survive the process. We are very much always in control of our strength, but I have seen plenty of species mating over the years and they tend to lose control of themselves in the act of passion. If my dear sister lost control of even a fraction of her strength in the moment, she may snap you in half. When he put it like that, it made me remember that he and his family were not mortal beings and did not think along the same lines as us mortal beings. The most human in mentality of them all was the oldest, Cuz. And it also reinforced just how powerful angels were and reminded me how far I still have to go strength-wise. Whis has seen the extent of my power right now, and yet he seemed fully confident even a fraction of his siblings' power would crush me in an instant. Talk about sobering man. Legendary Super Saiyan 3 was nothing in the face of an angel. Though, don't feel disheartened, as I told Vados, you are a very impressive mortal. Give it a few years and that probably won't be an issue for you anymore. Whis pointed out to comfort me. It's fine, I know where I stand roughly for now, I shrugged. thank fuck for regeneration at least, so a half an hour then? I asked, changing the subject. Around there, yes, could be slower if she takes her time, faster if she's motivated, Whis nodded, before stabbing a meatball with his fork and slipping it into his mouth. Lovely. That could be enough time to take care of something and be back for her then. I nodded, crossing my arms. There were a pair of gnats on their way to Earth after all, and honestly, there really wasn't any reason to allow them to even get that far when I could take care of them without any issue and avoid any possible collateral. Plus, in that one filler arc, that may actually be true in this universe considering Yema's fruit and all that being a thing, Vegeta and Nappa stopped to wipe out some races and destroy their planets. I can't be having that nonsense pulling the mortal level down. You have something else to accomplish before meeting my sister? You are a busy little mortal, aren't you? Whis hummed, pointing his fork at me in amusement. I'm taking care of things quickly and in advance so later I can relax and enjoy my life, I replied. Also, you keep calling me immortal, aren't I a god now? Well, yes, but you were immortal first, and being the guardian of a single planet is such a low-tier god it barely qualifies, Whis replied. I won't consider you a proper god until you cultivate that god ki of yours to at least the level of a kai. Fair. I grudgingly accepted. I mean, it still felt odd to me to be basically classified as a god now just because. It wasn't like there was any grand ascension or anything like that. Yema just tossed me a bit of god ki and kicked me out basically. I'll be back in a bit. Okie dokie, Whis waved at me lightly, before blinking and pointing at my half-eaten kebab. Are you going to finish that by the way, or can I have it? Feel free, I shrugged, before pausing as a thought came to mind. In fact, let me leave these with you as well. I focused on the world connected to me, and the connection between my mind and the being that had become one with me and clicked my fingers. A portal rippled into existence and a moment later, multiple huge white robots came out in orderly fashion carrying all manners of scrumptious foods and treats. Oh my! Whis clapped, eyes lighting up with literal sheer giddy happiness. Are you sure it isn't me you're trying to court? He joked. You're a pretty guy, Whis, but I'm only into girls. I snorted, pressing 2 fingers to my forehead and spreading out my awareness. It wouldn't take long to find them. I'd already long located them with the help of Guru when I got back, so I had a feel for them. You're lost, my friend, Whis shrugged, and tossed me a little wave. Do hurry back though, he added, just as I locked onto 2 key signatures deep within the expanse of space and teleported away. _______________________ A few moments later, I found myself deep within the void of space, not a solid footing to stand on, no meteors, no planets and no debris. Look at all this space where new planets could be created. I huffed. Shin really needed to get his education in order, man. Really, my only company in this vast inky black expanse was the twinkling stars and the 2 Scion pods rocketing towards me. Just as they were about to zip right by me though, I blinked at them and they froze in place. Telekinesis was bullshit like that when you had the power to spare. I clicked my fingers and formed a massive crimson-red barrier a few thousand feet wide made of ki and then took a deep exhale, converting my ki into oxygen, and exhaled. A massive gale force wind spread across the confines of the barrier. That'll do for now. I nodded to myself. Thanks, King Cold. That done, I blinked at the space pods again and they dropped to the bottom of the barrier and laid there for a moment. Sure, they kept their momentum and all that when they did, enough force to level a city or two, but hey, my barrier didn't even ripple. A second later, both pods began to open. Alright, what's the big idea, punk? A large behemoth of a man with a shiny bald head, clad in Scion armor demanded as he jumped out of his pod. Calm down, idiot, Vegeta huffed, pushing himself out of the space pod and glaring at me, but his question remains, who are you to impede the prince of all Scions, you fool? In response, I wiggled my tail at them. Their eyes widened. Impossible, another Scion. Vegeta gaped, but no, the color is off, that is no Scion tail. Imposter. You bastard. Nappa roared angrily at me, you dare imitate the glorious Scion race? Don't get your panties in a knot, Vegeta. I am a Scion. I crossed my arms and snorted imperiously at him. I'm just built different from you, being the legendary Super Scion and all. You lie. Vegeta roared instantly at my taunting, it is my destiny to become the legend, not some random interloper nobody. I'm Kakarot. I shrugged. Kakarot is dead. Vegeta roared in a rage, a massive purple aura of raging ki exploding out of his form as he launched himself at me. Geez, take a joke, little man. I snorted, before exhaling a breath from my nostrils, a gust of wind so hard slamming into him that it cut his little charge at me short and carried him hundreds of feet back to slam into the end of the barrier. He fell to the ground a groaning mess. What the hell is this? Nappa looked between me and Vegeta gapingly, before swallowing heavily and lifting his hand to the scouter over his eye and trying to read my power level. As soon as it attempted to, it exploded, making Nappa wince. Everything about you guys is inferior to me, huh? Even your scouters. I laughed. If you must know, right now my power level is at 3.3 trillion. I helpfully supplied. Trillion? Nappa trembled, slumping to his knees, all fight leaving him. Don't fall for it, Nappa, he's talking bullshit. Just a trick. Vegeta snarled, pushing himself up on shaky feet and blustering as usual. Despite the trail of blood oozing from his head and down his face, there are no Scions left besides us and Kakarot's son. Even assuming they used those Dragon Balls to bring Kakarot back, this is not him. There's no way low-class trash like that could get this strong in under a year and be able to damage a super elite like myself. Vegeta's words seemed to rouse the bald man, and Nappa nodded, pushing himself to his feet. Why yeah, he's just talking bullshit. You're right, Vegeta, who cares if his power exploded the scouter, they can only measure 10,000 anyway. Nappa punched his meaty fists together before glaring at me. You're tough bastard, but you're nothing compared to us as the mighty Owozaru. My power reaches 50,000 in that form and Vegeta's at 180,000. Cool story, bro. I stuck my finger up my nose dismissively, before pulling out a booger. Heh, you sure talk tough, don't you, you little piece of dash, Nappa gagged in pain. I'd flicked my booger just a moment ago and it slammed into his stomach before he could finish. He collapsed to his knees, gurgling in pain. Enough of this. Vegeta roared and shot into the air, cupping his hands together, forming a massive sphere of purple ki between his hands. His ki began to rise tremendously. For his current level at least, growing by a third. Feel the wrath of a true Super Saiyan and disappear, you trash. Gallic gunfire, he threw his cupped hands out and unleashed an utterly massive beam that blotted out everything else in view. I didn't even bother dodging it and just let it wash over me. I barely even felt it, to be honest, little more than a stiff breeze. Hell, it didn't even singe my clothing. As the light died down, Vegeta came back into view, panting deeply above me in the air. His eyes widened in horror when he saw me. No, how, this cannot possibly be. That was my full power. I ignored him for now. What to do with him? I could kill him, but that's a waste really. I could probably learn stuff from him about Saiyan culture and shit, but I don't feel like investing my time into trying to iron out that attitude or training him. Oh yeah. I clicked my fingers as an idea came to mind. First I have to weaken them though, properly at least. I formed a portal into my world and from it, a familiar red and white sphere appeared. Broly, I choose you. I declared, unleashing the Mafubamon. Yeah, that'll do. Unleashing the Mafubamon within. A metallic behemoth that made Nappa seem scrawny appeared in front of me and roared angrily, Kakarot. He launched himself at me immediately. I slapped him with my pinky and he crashed into the floor of the barrier, then stood on his back with one foot and kept him pinned. Now Broly, you can't just go attacking your trainer like that. How will I become the champion of the Mafubamon League like this? I shook my head, then tapped my forehead. Besides, I already have the badge I need to train you. After all, this Broly was fully under the control of the Big Geek Gamer system. I relayed my orders to my brain buddy and stepped off of Metal Broly. As I did, the metallic legendary Super Saiyan rose to his feet and turned to face Vegeta and Nappa, who were staring wide-eyed and in horror at me. Broly, my Mafubamon grunted. There, that was better. Right, I need to weaken them before I capture them. I nodded to myself and pointed at Nappa, who was shakily getting to his feet after taking my booger cannon attack. Metal Broly, use tackle attack. Broo-Rooly. Metal Broly roared and launched himself forward in a massively speedy sprint. Nappa barely had time for his eyes to widen in horror before Metal Broly slammed into him full force in a full body tackle. Nappa slammed into the end of the barrier a split moment later, body absolutely mangled. Fuck, I should have used false swipe instead. I sighed, he'll need some medical treatment after this. Good thing for King Cold's healing powers, there's no Mafuba centers in existence yet. This has to be a nightmare, Vegeta stared at me and then Broly in a terrified stupor. To his credit, he managed to swallow that fear. No, I refuse to let this be the end of the Prince of all Scions. Burst open and mix, he quickly conjured a sphere of crackling white ki filled with Blutz waves and tossed it high up into the barrier. Once high enough, it exploded outwards and expanded, forming into a miniature moon, and Vegeta began to change before our eyes. Annoyingly, I felt my own change begin to be stimulated as well. Yeah, no thanks. Metal Broly, use Aura Sphere. I ordered, and then the Mega Punch. Bro! Metal Broly obeyed instantly and cupped his huge metallic hands together, forming a green sphere of ki and launched it high into the air, where it quickly destroyed the fake moon. And then explode forward towards Vegeta before he could react and punched him square in the face with one massive metal fist. I winced as Vegeta's neck went snap, crackle and pop, alongside his jaw as his head turned completely around the other way. Not to mention, he went flying backwards to slam into the edge of the barrier, and I heard the rest of his bones go crunch as well from the sheer impact as he slid down it, leaving a bloody trail all the way down and landed in a heap beside Nappa. Well done, Metal Broly, you can have a good rest now, return. I raised the Mafuba ball and a green and yellow light erupted from it, totally legitimately, and consumed Metal Broly, sucking him back inside. I totally didn't just use the technique again. Welp, better heal them before they croak. I shrugged and made my way over to the broken and bloodied forms of Nappa and Vegeta, lifting my hand and letting loose the same healing technique I had used on Son Goku. Geez, you guys took a beating, but I guess that's what happens when you use a shiny legendary Mafubamon against Mafubamon you can get before the first gym. I shook my head. Or wait, is Metal Broly a regional variant legendary? It didn't take long to heal them, but even when I did, they were still completely unconscious. Perfect for capture. I quickly withdrew totally not conjured 2 empty Mafuba balls and quickly captured both of them. Then, I spun in place and thrust 2 fingers into the air in the shape of a V4 victory, yes. I caught Saiyan Saga Vegeta and Nappa. I cheered. Sure, they were basically like the Rattata and Pidgey stand-ins, but any true Mafubamon master could make even common weak Mafubamon reach the very top and contend with legendaries. Heck, they'd even got a substantial power boost after I healed them. It surprised me just how much they grew from it, considering neither of them can sense energy, not even Vegeta at this point. The mystery of the Zenkai continues. I'll need to employ Mystery Inc. to investigate that sometime in the future. I wonder how Bulma would look dressed up as Velma. Or would Daphne fit her better? I mean, she's a hot-ass nerd lady like Velma, but she's also a rich valley girl type like Daphne. Well, good thing she can use the multiform now. Maybe I should collect Frieza as well. I mused to myself. I can go the Mafubamon route, or I could just truss him up, give him regeneration focused on his tail and hang him from one of my trees. From what Whis informed me, even if I did do that though, the power transfer would only really work once per person. I don't know why, but I'll take his word for it. But hey, still a free decent power boost to hand out like candy. He'd make a good tree lizard decoration and everything. Well, I'll deal with that later. I mused, pressing my fingers to my forehead and focusing my senses back towards Whis. It didn't take me long to find him again. I was getting better at it, I think. And a moment later, I slipped through time and space and made my way back to Beerus' planet. Oh, back already, Kakarot? Whis blinked as I appeared beside him. That was quick. I made to greet him, but before I could, an airy, pleasant voice drifted through the air. So this is the mortal you were talking about, Kakarot, is it? I turned around at the sound of the voice to find Vados sitting in the seat I just left, half-eaten chocolate eclair in hand, and some cream frosting over her lips. If nothing else, I do have to admit your taste in food is delightful. Hello, Hoochie Mama. Underscore 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 underscore. Mafubamon Saiyan Saga Vegeta Battle Power, 1,080,000. Mafubamon Scion Saga Nappa Battle Power, 300,000. Chapter 27. Vados was something else. Her hair a glimmering soft white, skin a lustrous blue. Eyes of light shimmering violet and noble, soft features that would make a princess weep in envy. Man, the features that made Whis pretty even as a man, enhanced from being a true woman, made for an astounding sight to see. Hoochie mama indeed. That's me. I couldn't help but grin at her, glancing up and down the blue-skinned beauty's frame. Vados eyed me, with what may have been some form of interest as he polished of the chocolate eclair in her hand. She looked me up and down for a moment before nodding. You're right, Whis, for a mortal he is astonishingly powerful, especially for one that appears to not have even reached his second decade in life yet. Mentally, I'm older than that, even if just a little bit. But, physically, not so much. Her eyes slowly glanced down at my tail and her eyebrows rose ever so slightly, and that would be the tail that the scions of Universe 6 gave up millions of years ago for an increase in power at birth long ago. It explains why his power feels so very much more savage than a scion of Universe 6. A stupid move on their part. I couldn't help but comment. I'd have to disagree, I'm afraid. Vados just smiled prettily at me. The transformation the tail used to give them, while mighty, was large and cumbersome and came at the price of most of being situational and hard to control. Nowadays, scions are born more powerful on average than they were long ago and are a peaceful race and main peacekeepers of Universe 6. From that reasoning alone, I can understand why she'd think so. It wasn't even just as simple as being 10 times stronger at birth, or not having to rely on a cumbersome giant form. But the simple fact that the stronger one became, the larger their strength gains were when sought. Using Vegeta himself as an example, from this world. His battle power was 18,000 before I captured him. If he was from Universe 6 and the same type of scion as them, his battle power would have been 180,000. At the very least. In actuality, if he was the same type, I give even odds on him being at least 5 times stronger than that by using my own experiences as reference. It made the scions of Universe 6 formidable, but ultimately weaker in the long run. The long-term benefit outweighs the short-term, I shrugged, lifting my tail up and allowing wiggling it. They provide more benefits than most know. For one, they help us regulate our ki usage, especially in our super scion states, like the form I'm in right now. Oh, so this is a transformed state scions can take on? Interesting. I was wondering why your hair was so different in coloring, Vados commented, nonplussed. I wonder if the scions of Universe 6 can transform like this? They should be capable of at least this form, if a bit of a weaker variation, I replied, but they'll never be able to reach the pinnacle of scion transformations that combines the Owozaru transformation with our super scion forms. The one you mentioned before, was nodded in remembrance. You said it will increase your strength by 10 times? At least, but I'm thinking more closer to 100 times over when fully controlled, I replied, though, it isn't just the power increase that matters. In Super Scion 4, all of our natural scion abilities are raised to the maximum. Our strength increases constantly, we adapt to every situation, our ki use is further regulated, we gain the ability to outright absorb energy, our innate instinct is raised to massively allowing our bodies to react and fight with little conscious thought and more. Well now, that is certainly a lot of benefits, I must say, Whis whistled, then tapped his chin, though I'm most interested in that final piece you mentioned and most definitely outweighs any other benefit brought up so far. Indeed, if you speak truthfully then I concede, Vados agreed with a small laugh and shake of her head. Even the gods of destruction across the universes struggle with such instinctual ability, and this Super Scion 4 as you call it provides such a thing naturally? I had a good idea why they both suddenly focused on that aspect. Yeah, I responded, to the point where we're capable of even fighting enemies on our level without being able to sense or see them. EIS Shinran found that out the hard way. Fascinating, Whis-eyed me with interest. Are you sure you aren't interested in becoming a god of destruction? With such an innate ability and power at your age, you may even surpass Lord Beerus and Master Ultra Instinct. Yup, as I thought. My thoughts exactly. Vados nodded in agreement. I'm good, I shrugged. Like I said, it sounds like a pain of a job. Too bad. Whis shrugged the refusal off without issue. Though the offer is on the table, it would be fun to teach you, I'm sure. Though, you'd perhaps be more interested in learning for my dear sister here and attempting to take over for Lord Kampa if you were so inclined. He side-eyed his sister with a chuckle. Oh? And why is that? Vados cocked her head to the side gently and regarded me with interest. Does it perhaps have something to do with why you wanted to meet me? Pretty much, I nodded. While I was talking to Whis, the topic came up about if you angels were capable of reproducing with other races and were wondering if it would be possible to impregnate me? Vados cut me off, her smile turning, dare I say, coy? Whis filled me in before you returned, she informed me upon seeing my surprised look. Oh. Well, that saves having to explain it then, I shrugged, but yes, I was wondering what my chances were of getting you pregnant if I had sex with you. No point beating around the bush. What an interesting mortal you found, Whis. Vados gave a dainty giggle, shaking her head in amusement. In all my millions of years of life, I've never been propositioned sexually before, and definitely not with the goal of having me birth a child. I mean, I'd have sex with you regardless of that outcome, I informed, bluntly. You are stupidly attractive. She giggled a little harder. Oh my. He definitely makes things more interesting, Whis nodded. I'll be keeping a close eye on Kakarot from now on. It will make for quite the entertaining experience. He does seem the type that will get into a lot of trouble, Vados agreed, eyes flickering briefly to my hand where the time ring lay, before rising to meet my own. To be quite honest, I'm unsure if it is possible. Perhaps I should bring it up with the Grand Priest, she mused. Or, you could take me up on my offer and we can try it out right now. I offered. Or that, Vados agreed, not missing a beat, though, if you did manage it, I'd be quite interested in going through the full pregnancy just for the experience. It would be utterly new to me after all, but that may cut into my duties to Lord Kampa, not to mention raising the child. His sleeping habits are terrible after all, and there's no telling when he'll wake up. She tapped her chin and gave me a smile. You could always see about surpassing Lord Kampa and becoming the god of destruction of Universe 6, she offered. My duty after all is to serve said god. While it would be a new experience, I would serve you any way you desire, including sexually. Hey, now that was good reason to become a god of destruction right there. And I could totally surpass Kampa, given enough time. That makes actually going for the position tempting. I snorted. Ah, I see how it is, Whis rolled his eyes. When I bring it up a firm rebuttal, but when Vados does it, you actually think about it. My feelings are hurt, I have been wounded right in the heart. And I thought we were close, Kakarot, he outright pouted at me. Now brother, Vados giggled again, patting him on the shoulder consolingly. It seems science by Kakarot's own words are deeply instinctual as a species, and the greatest instinct of all mortal creatures is to further their bloodline after all and keep the species alive. You are simply unable to carry children. That, and while pretty for a man, he's still a man and lacks breasts and womanly curves. I added helpfully. Humph, Whis turned his nose up at our words. I am still deeply offended. I must console myself with more delicious treats. I rolled my eyes. If you wanted more food you just had to ask. I told you you're welcome around my planet whenever you want, I told him, before looking at Vados. Also, I know a place a year passes inside while only a day does outside. That's well enough time for a pregnancy. Wasting a year training in the hyperbolic time chamber? No thanks. Spending a year in their training under and plowing Vados? Sign me up. Priorities, man, mine are way better than Son Goku's. Or Vegeta's for that matter. I hadn't thought of that, and it's a simple matter with my staff. Vados blinked and then smiled at me. Very well, if you promise to provide me with more of this delicious food you've been serving my brother, you may try to impregnate me when you wish. Ha! Just like that? Well, all right then. I couldn't help the massive grin that spread across my face. Fine with me, I agreed instantly. Let's go then. I walked over and held my hand out to her. There wasn't a lot of privacy to be found here, or even currently in my own dimension and planet. But I do have a vacant mansion back on Earth. And leave this delicious food behind? Vados gave the assortment of food my robot minions made a forlorn look. I'll have a feast of way more and better prepared when we're done. I offered straight out. The big geek gamer system will take care of it while I'm busy. Oh? Vados' eyebrows jumped up with interest and she nodded. Okay then, I suppose I'll be seeing you later then, dear brother, she said, lifting her staff in one hand and taking my hand with the other. The first thing I noticed was just how soft her hand felt, despite the monstrous power she had, capable of crushing me in an instant. The thought made me lick my lips. Have fun, Whis didn't miss a beat. I'll just enjoy this food to myself, though I do hope you'll invite me to that feast when you're done. Perhaps, Vados shrugged before looking at me. Let us be off then, she said to me. I didn't need to be told twice, I was already spreading my key senses out. And then an instant later, between instant transmission and Kai Kai that I learned from Mr. Popo's knowledge, we disappeared. And reappeared in a familiar bedroom that I hadn't been in within a year. Your Kai Kai isn't bad, though a little rough, Vados commented, idly surveying the bedroom. You covered quite the distance though, a testament to your power at such a young age. It was a nice compliment, that I'd usually preen over, but I'm a little more interested in something else right now. Vados giggled at the look I was giving her. The way you're looking at me reminds me of the way Whis was looking at those treats you had prepared for us. Well, you're definitely a feast for the eyes, I smirked, baring my teeth, though most treats like those generally come in a nice little wrapping. How about I change those clothes of yours into something more appetizing? Well, you definitely don't waste time, Vados smiled back at me. Very well, I can recreate these if need be easily enough. Feel free to dress me up to your desires, Kakarot. Something about my name on her lips and that sentence just sent a shiver of lust down my spine. All right then. My smirk widened and I let go of her hand and stood back. I already had an idea of what I wanted in mind. She was an angel, stronger than gods who'd lived for millions of years and pure on top of that, untouched. I wanted to conquer her. A harem girl outfit would look amazing on her, but I don't want to waste time ripping it off her, so only a partial part. I can get her in a full one in dancing for me later, hopefully. Decision made, I lifted my hand and focused on my magic. A bright beam of light erupted from my finger and struck Vados. And a split moment later, her clothing changed entirely. Her full-body green robes, replaces by nothing more than black stockings, a pink thong with the middle cut out, a set of pink arm sleeves and a set of gold bracelets around her biceps, alongside a collar to match. Oh, my! Vados' eyes actually widened at her new state and I couldn't help but growl lustfully as I took in her near-naked state. Huge, supernaturally perky breasts with light violet nipples, full childbearing hips that flared out into a large, round, bouncy ass and a pretty violet slit just waiting for me to split it open with my cock. I'm gonna have a lot of fun with you. I laughed. Vados raised an eyebrow at my comment, but what she said was more inviting than anything else. Then come get me then, she teased, spreading her arms wide and showing off her fully nude breasts to my hungry gaze. No way I could hold myself back at those words. I stepped forward and swept the blue-skinned angel beauty into my arms. One hand going to her backside, sinking my fingers into her bodacious cheeks greedily, while the other went for her chest, my hand filling with the soft, squishy mountainous breast. Oh! Vados gave a little gasp at my sudden move, before she could say nothing else as I caught her lips with my own. Before long, my tongue had invaded her mouth and was wrestling hers into submission, while I began tweaking her nipple expertly with the hand on her large, squishy blue breast. Vados have a surprised moan into my mouth and I noted her eyes had widened, her cheeks flushing a little purple. Her hands came up, arms wrapping around my neck and hands fisting in my hair almost automatically as she began to return the kiss. I could feel her inexperience in the almost clumsy way she started with, but it wasn't long before she learned what to do. Only a few seconds, far faster than any normal mortal would learn what they were doing even at just this. But it was enough time to set the pace and I felt her nipple harden in between my fingers while her hips buckled, forcing her ass cheek harder into my palm. I pulled back and admired the flushed look on her face as she panted, so that is what kissing feels like. Vados noted almost clinically, yet the way she heaved, making her huge breasts bouncing on her chest and the way her voice had deepened with passion, belayed her true reaction. Yup, I nodded, letting go of her breast and reaching down with my hand to join the first on her ass, filling my palm greedily once again with her other spongy, springy-ass cheek. And then bodily lifted her into the air. Oh! Vados made a noise of surprise and instinct seemed to take over as her legs wrapped around my waist. I turned around and sat on the bed with her straddling me, and while palming her ass I wrapped my lips around one of her nipples. I thought it was infants that suckled on the teats? Vados gave an airy giggle that became a little moan as I gently caught her nipple between my teeth and nibbled, while flicking my tongue over it rapidly. I sucked on her tit deeply, before pulling back a moment later with a loud pop, leaving her nipple coated in my saliva and puffy. Only when there's milk to be found, I grinned at her. I'll make sure there's plenty in there when I'm done with you. She hummed. Well, we'll see about that. It still remains to be seen if it's possible. I'll just need to be thorough. My grip on her full-ass cheeks tightened and I spun us around, pinning her beneath me, which means I'm going to fuck you until you can't walk straight and fill your womb with so much of my cum your stomach will swell up. I promises, eyes admiring the way her large blue breasts fanned across her chest before rising up to meet her eyes. Her eyebrows rose up into her hairline. Quite the vow, she mused, and a rather interesting choice of words. I can see the difference between the science of this universe and my own from your savage, guttural word choices alone. Yet, interesting that they made my stomach flutter for a moment. Flutter, huh? Well, I don't know about the science of Universe 6, but science of this age, myself included, are all descended from evil science. Some of them could even crush most of the gods of destruction, I revealed. At our core, we're conquerors who relish taking on the strongest of all. And what better woman for a scion than an angel stronger than the gods of destruction? I couldn't deny the high that had descended upon me now that I had Vados in my grasp. I love my Bulma, but this isn't about love. All my scion instincts were practically screaming at me to fuck Vados silly and fill her belly with my offspring. Ho, isn't that interesting? I'd be interested to hear more about the origins of your race when we're done. Vados wasn't at all bothered by my words, though. First, I believe you're going to try and conquer me. Her words turned impish and she gave me a coy look. That's the plan. I nodded. First, I have to get you ready first. After all, I'm a big guy. I pulled back from her and stood up, kicking off my boots and GI pants and underwear as I did, allowing my manhood, a huge pillar of meaty pinnacle manliness, to rise up and greet her. My weapon that will slay the angels stronger than gods. Oh, wow, Vados tilted her head, regarding my cock with interest. That is much larger than I was expecting. I didn't think scion genitalia could grow that big. This isn't even its final form, I declared proudly, wrapping my hand around the base of my cock and giving it a single powerful stroke. Before stepping forward and letting it flop onto her belly as I stepped between her legs and hooked my hands under her thighs. From her womanhood up past her navel, it lay there threateningly, and I let it, just to let her get a good grasp of what was coming her way. Before I pulled back and knelt down between her legs, attacking her pretty violet womanhood with my legendary Super Tongue 3. Oh. Vados was immediately receptive as I spread her folds with my tongue. Now, here's a little trivia. But the legendary Super Saiyan forms are different from the usual ones. The mass increase upon the transformations aren't minima in the normal Super Saiyan forms, but they're not giant either. Legendary Super Saiyan is a different kettle of fish. It's not just a change of hair color and power increase. My body from it increases twice over in bulk and mass. My tongue included. But, this is to go even further beyond. I concentrated on my mouth and it swelled up even more, bulking powerfully. And then I added my magic power for good measure. This is the legendary Super Ultra Mystic Tongue 3. My tongue, thick and powerful, spread her pliant folds and rubbed along her walls, teasing them, getting them ready for the destructive pounding I'd be giving them later. Her inner walls were tight like a vice, yet warm, springy and supple. Almost like rubber, but infinitely softer and nicer to feel, like velvet. It was an odd combination, and while reminiscent of humans, different as whole. Made sense for an angel. Either way, my tongue currently had a battle power over 7, and I began putting it to good use as I tongued her pussy with all the skill and experience I'd built up between the memories of a dead man who became me and all that sex I've had with Bulma, both of them. Vados' airy, light moans were almost orgasmic to listen to as I ate her out and felt her inner walls clench against my invading tongue, and my cock throbbed powerfully with desire. I let go of her thighs and brought my hands up, sliding a finger in from one hand to help pleasure her, while I stimulated her clit with my other hand. It wasn't long before Vados' legs wrapped around my neck as I pleasured her. Her pussy walls spasmed a moment later and her moan turned into a surprised, erotic-sounding near scream. Juices shot forth, coating my face, and her legs clenched. And my neck snapped. Luckily for me, I'm just built different, and my neck snapped back into place a moment later and healed near instantly. My power rose while my neck strengthened and became more resistant to what just happened. I pulled my tongue free and stood up to admire my handiwork, ignoring the lingering pain in my neck. It would be gone in a few seconds anyway. Vados stared up at the ceiling, eyes a little glassy. Her lovely, voluptuous body shivered lightly and her thighs were clenching and unclenching every few seconds. Dude, I rock. I mentally stroked myself off, while reaching down to physically stroke myself off lightly in anticipation for what was coming next. It took nearly 20 seconds, I noted pridefully, before Vados regained her bearings and her vision cleared up. So, that was an orgasm? I must admit, I wasn't expecting it to feel quite so visceral, she admitted, then blinked. Did your power increase? It does that sometimes, I shrugged. Now, are you ready for the next part? I asked. I suppose so, Vados nodded. Are we moving on to proper intercourse now? After this, I smirked once more and let go of my dick, reaching down to grasp her hand and pulled her to her feet, pride flaring in my chest as her legs shook a bit. First though, I want you to wrap those huge tits of yours around my cock, I told her, sitting down on the bed. Vados blinked, before shrugging. Odd, but very well. She nodded and lowered to her knees between my legs, grasping her huge breasts from beneath and smothering my cock between them. Damn, my cock looked so good peeking up out of her huge tits. That's a nice look, I praised. So what is the purpose of this? Vados asked curiously, yet she was already moving without me saying a thing, sliding her tits up and down my cock. You're already doing it, I laughed, reaching down to cup her chin. It's a titty fuck. Interesting, mortals sure have made a game of mating, she mused with a giggle. Damn, her tits felt good. I leaned down as she reached the apex of sliding her tits up my cock and caught her lips in a quick kiss. There's more to come, literally, I snorted. Feel free to wrap those pretty purple lips and tongue around my cock while you're at it. Oh, I know this at least, Vados grinned back at him. Fellatio, no, she gave my cockhead a lick, flicking her tongue up and down the slit atop it. That's it, I hissed, reaching down to fist my hand in her long, beautiful white hair and take hold of it by her ponytail. Using my grip on her hair, I forced the angel to drag her tongue from the tip of my cock, all the way down to where it jutted proudly up out of the softy pillowy embrace of her fat blue tits. It was amazing how compliant she was. I loved it. The room was filled with only the sound of my deep panting and Vados worshipping my cock. And honestly, before we even got to her sucking my cock fully, I lost it and couldn't control myself any longer. I stood up. I can't hold back anymore, I declared, and let go of her hair to grasp her by the armpits and lift her up and promptly deposit her on the bed. My, you sure are impatient, Vados hummed, licking her lips, perhaps without even realizing she was doing it as she eyed my throbbing cock slick with her saliva. Here I didn't even get the chance to perform a full fellatio on you. You can do that later, I told her. Right now, I want to rearrange your insides with my cock. Vados blinked. A euphemism, she wondered. Otherwise, that sounds rather painful. Yes, I replied simply, before grasping her between the thighs and then forcing them up and over her head, bending her like a pretzel while I loomed over her. Are you ready? I asked, lining myself up with her entrance and brushing my thick cockhead against her now that I looked, dripping wet slit. Vados shivered as she looked at my eyes. This position feels rather primal, she noted instead of saying so. It's called the mating press for a reason. I pounced on even a semblance of weakness and bared my teeth at her. It's the perfect position for pounding that beautiful pussy of yours, making you scream my name and unloading all my cum straight into your womb. Oh, is that so? Vados blinked, her cheeks flushing a deeper purple than they already were. Yeah. I nodded and forced my fat cockhead to spread her lovely little violet petals open. Ugh, a moan left Vados' mouth and she looked surprised, then moaned again as I began easing more and more into her, lowering myself down and pinning her much taller frame beneath my own. Vados was an Amazon of a woman after all, standing over 7 feet tall. Her arms came up to wrap around my neck, scrabbling against my skin, and then actually piercing deep into my skin as I fully sheathed myself inside her. Despite her fingers literally stabbing inside me, I grinned ferally, lowering my mouth to her ear. How does it feel to lose your virginity that you've safeguarded for millions of years? I growled into her ear. Though, there was no hymen or blood that I felt. And her insides adjusted to me quickly. oh my, wouldn't say, I safeg dash Vado's breathy reply was cut off as I rose up, pulling my cock back until all but the head was outside of her pussy and then forced it back down. Her walls spasmed around me as I hilted against her womb entrance, and pulled back, then repeated. This angel pussy was already feeling good from my cock spreading her wide open. Time to take this to the next level. I decided. I focused my ki into my muscles and my muscle mass increased even further as I entered the ultra form, and then I raised my power even further with my magic. Oh my Xeno! Vados outright squealed as my cock expanded in size alongside the rest of my body. And then I really began to give it to her, picking up speed bit by bit until I was practically slamming down into her. Oh, yes, yes. Vados moaned and gasped with each thrust, my bloated balls slapping against her jiggling bouncy blue cheeks audibly. I fucked her harder, her gasping moans egging me on. Her fingers, despite my power increase, dug even further into me. Her legs clenched against my arms hard enough to snap the bones. But I healed. My body increased in strength. My power grew. And fucked her even harder. Lust consumed me, tinting my vision. All I could see was the beautiful, voluptuous blue-skinned angel beneath me as I tore into her with my cock, fighting with all my might to keep her pinned beneath me. The building shook from the strength I was pounding her with, the bed frame snapped beneath us, but I didn't stop fucking down into Vados with all my strength. The floor gave out beneath the mattress and we fell down into the living room below. The ground rumbled beneath us like an earthquake was going off, but I barely noticed, so focused was on absolutely demolishing the woman beneath me and the way her cunt kept clenching and spasming around my dick, her juices soaking the mattress beneath us. Before long I rolled with her, tearing her fingers free from the gouges in my back. A moment later, she was on her hands and knees with me behind her, hand-fisted in her long beautiful white ponytail like a leash, yanking her head back as I drilled her from behind, watching with savage glee as her fat round blue cheeks jiggled and rippled, clapping together with the force of my thrusts. You like that, Vados? I demanded, spanking her. Ah, she gave a yelping moan and looked back at me with foggy eyes. Yes. It sparked a flame inside me and I spanked her again. You like my cock inside you, Vados? I roared, fucking into her even harder. Yes. I do. Vados squealed, and took me by surprise when she thrust back. Her big, cushiony-ass cheeks powdered my ribs and flipped us both through the air, ending up with me on the bottom as she frantically began riding me, bouncing up and down on my cock, giving me the view of the thick, tube-like bulge running up to her stomach. My ribs healed, and then she came down and crushed them again. And again. And again. Vados' face twisted up, her eyes rolling up into the back of her head while she moaned my name, her tongue lolling out and dribbling drool everywhere. Yes. 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 Fuck me, cockarote, she moaned wantonly. Fuck me with that beastly scion penis. Bludgeon my womb. Her velvety walls clenched down around my cock like a vice made of catchin and I lost control. My balls churned and exploded, my cum erupting within her and pushing towards her womb. I filled her insides up with my cum, load after load traveled up from my balls, fueled by my regeneration and energy, her stomach swelling as I pumped her womb full. I ripped my dick free and Vados toppled forward, a dazed look on her face, mouth hanging wide open, and would have landed on her face if I didn't catch her by the hair. And then thrust my dick forward into her mouth. We're not done yet. I snarled, depositing the rest of my load directly down her throat bulging almost obscenely as she swallowed over and over. Unlike Vados, I was much more used to frenzied sex and orgasms and wrote out the rest of my orgasm fucking the angel's face. But only because her womb was already filled to the limit. Underscore 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 underscore. Hours later, I lay propped up against a tree, back against it, my ass in the grass, at the edge of a crater. The mattress had long since been torn apart. As had the house. All that was left of Tao's mansion that I stole from him was a mess of ruins. Obscene slurping sounds echoed through the forest, my hand resting on Vados' head as she bobbed her head up and down atop my cock, while my other hand was proudly filled with one of her bodacious and now lightly bruised cheek. I don't know how long had passed, I'd long lost track. But night had come and gone already. And I'd blasted so much cum inside her I could have filled a bathtub. Good girl. I praised her, unable to contain the pride within my chest. After all, anyone else in my place would have died quite early in the process of fucking Vados. Not me though. I survived, grew stronger and conquered her. Vados pulled her lips from my cockhead with a loud pop and licked her lips. I think it's time you put this back inside me. She gave me a heated stare. She was insatiable. Oh well, a Scion warrior always rose to the challenge. Vados gave a laughing squeal as I tackled her to the ground, then a moaning squeal of pleasure as I sheathed my legendary super ultra mystic cock within her velvety pussy once more. Underscore 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 underscore. Zenkai's 1 Kakarot battle power 2,464,316,380 greater than 4,435,769,484. 2 Kakarot battle power 4,435,769,484 greater than 11,089,423,710. Kakarot battle power, legendary Super Saiyan 3/Mystic Ultra Bio 89,824,332,051,000. That wraps up this part of What If Reborn as a Goku clone. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Quick reminder. What If Dragon Deck user in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal and What If Reborn as a Goku clone will be going on hold soon, since we've nearly caught up with the author. So now, I need your help picking the next project for the channel. I'm currently deciding between these 3 fanfics. What If Gacha system in Modern Family World? What If Fusion Deck user in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX? What If Transmigrated in One Piece and becoming a Marine? Please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next. I'll take the top 2 picks and start working on those 2 series next. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.